Good to go?
Good to go.
All right, welcome back to the channel. Today, me and Wayne, this is Wayne, I'm Rob. I've gotten some questions on not only Facebook, but YouTube. We thought we'd sit down and talk about some of the questions we get about our machines, about what we do, what we're all about. And then let the conversation go where it wants to go from there. But what do you think, Wayne?
So I think we probably should start from the beginning, how this all started with the three of you, and pulled me into it. So I'll let you start about you, John, and Greg.
So I think we said this before in other videos, but me, John, and Greg kind of grew up together at Cedar Point. We've all done power sports things over the years. We knew Wayne from Cedar Point. Knew Wayne's wife from Cedar Point, and we decided that I had bought a machine for hunting. I had a quad, and John had a quad, and hunting purposes only. And then, you know, our kids were grown, and we decided that we wanted to have some fun towards the later years in life. So side-by-sides and quads were something we looked at, and I had a 6-seat Can-Am that I used for hunting, so I went out and bought an R-Max. Greg and John ended up with R-Maxes. You know, long story short, Greg started with a Wolverine, and John had a Cub Cadet. And because we all knew Wayne, we talked Wayne into buying a machine. We talked Wayne's wife into buying a machine. But Wayne rode with us on a trip, really liked it, and bought a machine, and that kind of started the whole thing about you doing a YouTube channel and doing things that, going places we haven't been to, and combination. We do a little bit of overlanding and then just trail riding, so. But that's how we got started. We've been at this for, what, 4 years?
4 years.
Sound right, 4 years?
Yep.
Yeah, it was right before COVID.
Well, our first trip was right after COVID.
Yeah, but with the planning stuff for us was right before COVID, because our original trip we wanted to do, when I sat at work talking to Greg. Me and Greg worked in the same office for a while, and talked to him about going to Newfoundland, and that's something we've already done. But that was our first trip that we had planned, and of course COVID postponed it a couple times, and logistics after COVID took us a little while to get there, so we had done a couple other things in between, but yeah.
Went to New Hampshire first. That's where you guys drugged me out there, swearing that you were going to get me to buy a machine, and I told you guys you were crazy, and I was calling dealerships from New Hampshire trying to figure out where I could get one. Started out was going to get a CF Moto. Some things fell through with that, and then this R-Max kind of fell in my lap, and I'm really happy that I ended up with the R-Max over the CF Moto, just from things I've seen online, and we actually rode with somebody in Canada that had a CF Moto. I'm not sure with what we do I would have been happy with it, space-wise and things like that, especially for the overlanding stuff, because we have to be able to carry pretty much everything we're going to need on the machines. So we did that in the Upper Peninsula. We had to carry everything with us because we went 600 miles without seeing the trucks again.
Yep.
Newfoundland, you know, we didn't even have our trucks on the island. They were over on the mainland, so that was 10 days with no vehicle other than the machines. So for space reasons, having the machines that we have it was kind of key, because of the dump bed. It's kind of the best of both worlds. It's sporty and fast, and will do just about anything you want, but it has space to carry things. So that was kind of, I think, the big selling point with the R-Maxes.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. R-Max fit everything we wanted to do. Obviously, it's not a true sport machine, but if you get a true sport machine, then you can't do the overlanding stuff. You could, but then you got to find ways to get gear and carry stuff and supplies, and so the R-Max kind of fits the bill for that. And I guess what we want to do today, in addition to answering the questions, is just kind of go over everything we've done to our machines. Each one of us has done different things, but the nice thing about having 4 RMAXs, the 4 of us, somebody buys a product that works out good, and the other guys like it, then they go and buy it. So we've done things like that, and then we've done things where we bought things that just we liked. And for example, tires. Me and Wayne upgraded the tires, and I got the tires first. I always wanted to go to 32-inch tires, get a little bit more ground clearance, but I was worried about weight. I didn't want to do clutch work, so I just took my time, did some research, and found some tires that were comparable to the carnivores. I like the carnivores, but some of the places we go to, West Virginia is one of them, where you do have a little bit of road or pavement riding, and it just was tearing up those tires too quick. So we ended up settling on 32s that were close in weight, Sedonas, Rockabillys. I heard good reviews on them. I got them and had a good price on them. And like I said before, after I put them on everything, when Wayne was looking for tires, he liked what I had, and he ended up buying the same thing. So
yeah, the only difference with mine with those tires, and I'm sure we'll touch on this in a minute, is Rob has the newer spring kit, so his sets up a little higher. And I realized when we were in West Virginia that the tires are just big enough that if I had a big enough bounce, the tires are rubbing the wheel wells, where Rob doesn't have that problem. So the spring kit might be in my future. You're just kind of waiting on money and things like that to come through, but that's the difference.
And speaking of the money thing, none of the stuff that we've added or done or whatever has been sponsored by anybody. This is all paid for by us. We just sit down and we discuss things. We're always, each of the 4 of us are always looking for things to do to improve, or things we see other people are doing. A lot of stuff on YouTube, a lot of people we've seen on trails. Then of course we got a pretty good relationship with Sheets Motorsports in Fremont, Ohio. The guy that runs the garage, the maintenance part of it. Nate is a good guy, and he's a power sports guy, and of course he's involved in that industry, so he gives us his opinions. And
real straight shooter on things.
He pretty straightforward with everything we do. So, but speaking of the spring kit, that's another big question I get all the time. Why I decided to go with what I did. A couple different reasons I wanted the spring kit. I'm a heavier guy, as you can see. And when we overland, I noticed that the machine really squatted with the factory shocks or springs. And, they're not made to do what we do, I think, from the factory. And if you look at the way they're set up from the factory, it's just not, it's not going to hold up. They start sagging. So I did some research. I looked at a bunch of different companies. There's a lot of good spring kits out there. I see stuff online all the time. Everybody's saying, well, which one would you buy, Bandit or Schmitty or Shock Therapy? And there's a couple others out there. But in the end, for me, it was, I had a good contact or a good experience talking to the people from Schmitty Racing, family-owned company. And again, I got no break or anything to say all this, and I paid for it all myself. But what I liked about it is they had the springs that they use. They have a deal with Swift Springs, and when I did some research on that particular manufacturer springs, it was really good reviews and quality, and the price was pretty good. And like I said, the interaction. I told them what I do. That we trail ride and overland. I told them what I carry. They go through a whole checklist with you, and I'm happy with the setup I have. It did give me quite a bit of ground clearance. It's settled a little bit, but it's still pretty good. And then you throw 32-inch tires on, and it just made the machine a total different machine. Not that the machine wasn't good to start with. From the factory, the RMAX is pretty good, but adding the tires in a spring kit, just the body roll's gone. Handling is just, the ride itself, the comfort, just much better. So that's kind of why I did it. And that's, again, I get questions all the time about why did I pick Schmitty Racing over the other ones, and they're not as popularly known as, you get on the internet, Bandit this or Bandit that, which, people that I know that have gotten Bandit springs really love them. Same thing with shock therapy. A couple guys we ride with have shock therapy, but that's why I just chose Schmitty over the other ones based on some research and my interactions with them as a company.
Yeah, I think for us as a group, having somebody that's willing to talk you through things and take the time to really explain things that we may not understand goes a long, long way. Even further than price cuts sometimes. We're not professionals at this by any means, so we definitely need some guidance in some areas, and I think that's kind of big for our group.
And I think one of the things that this video is intended for, when I think about it is, I remember when I first bought my first side-by-side, I've been in power sports my whole life. I raced motorcycles when I was a kid, rode three-wheelers and snowmobiles and quads, but we never had side-by-sides when I was a kid, so this is kind of new. And then, when you look at some of the places we go to ride, it's not just flat land. It's some of it's technical, and I didn't know anything about it. I was learning. I knew the quad life. That's it. But so when I get on the internet, it seems like on YouTube, you either got these guys that got the high performance machines, and if I was a young kid, I'd definitely buy one of those. But for what we do, that's not what I want to do. I went fast and all that crazy stuff when I was a kid. I just want to have fun, see things that I haven't had a chance to see in my lifetime, or do things with my kids, with the guys I hang out with, Wayne and Greg and John, and there's some other guys that travel with us too. But the core four guys, we all get along real well. Seem to have a good time when we're together. So that's kind of the mentality for me to get when we give information out like this. It's maybe somebody watches our video and says, hey, these guys did this or they did that, and I couldn't find it anywhere else, or and this is not a true review of everything, but it's kind of an understanding or an idea of what we decided or how we made decisions on buying equipment for our machines.
So I think your first must-have purchase if you're going to get an RMAX would be the fender flares. I can say that without a doubt, because when I first bought mine, I hadn't gotten the fender flares yet. We went out on a ride, took my wife and my son, and went out there, and we rode with Rob, and we got done riding, and Rob's fairly clean, got a little spot of mud here or there on him. The whole inside of my machine was mud. The steering wheel, the dashboard, inside the windshield. The wheels just stick out a little bit further than the stock fenders do, and it's just enough when you're cutting and turning that it threw mud right into the machine. So that was probably the first thing that I put on it. I take that back. The first thing I put on it was a winch, because mine did not come with a winch. I kind of went with the...
and it's come in handy for Wayne.
and Rob and John. So mine didn't come with a winch because of the model I bought, and now for whatever reason I can't remember what it is.
R-Spec.
R-Spec, that's what it is. So that's a pretty stripped down version. The one thing I really did like about the machine, once I saw it in person, was the color scheme. When I saw it online, it's the yellow and kind of a battleship gray. Online, it almost looked like a mustardy color, and I didn't like that. But it was available, and they were hard to come by at that time, so we went and looked at it. Once I saw it in person, it's more of a fluorescent yellow. So I did like the color scheme, and I do like to tinker, do a lot of my own work. So I went out and bought a Badlands winch from Harbor Freight, 5,000 pound. Installed that myself, and like Rob said, it's come in pretty handy. It's actually rated a little higher than the Warren winches that theirs came with. Yours are what, 4,500?
4,500, yeah.
So mine's 5,000. And we would joke around a lot. We say that I'm getting my AAA merit badge, but it has come in handy dragging each other out of the muck and the mud and things like that.
I think the other thing too, talking about mud, when we bought the fender flares, we noticed this when you clean your machine. Notice that, at least I did right away. For whatever reason, Yamaha did not block off the firewall area well enough behind the wheel wells or in the wheel wells, and mud would get, even if you rode in just a little bit of mud, not much at all, and some water or whatever, stuff would just get up inside the frame and everything, and it's like, why wouldn't they block that off? So lo and behold, get on the internet, get on YouTube, you see what somebody else did. Mudbusters makes a couple other people make them, but Mudbusters at the time had a kit where you could buy, and it blocked off that whole firewall or wheel well area, so it keeps the frame and underneath the machine clean. So along with the fender flares, that was a good purchase.
I will say I will find out if it was a good purchase because I got mine for Christmas. They're already installed. We also have a video out there of Greg installing his on how to install those Mudbuster ones, but I have yet to benefit from it, but they're installed and I'm ready to benefit from it because cleaning those little spots out is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, and the only other thing that's different on our machines, I think, is windshields.
Yes, I have the poly.
So I had a poly windshield on mine, and I like the poly, but what I found was the poly on I had it on my Can-Am. After a while, it never really got scratched or anything, but it's not the same as having a glass windshield. So I started looking for a company that would make a glass windshield. And there was a few companies when I bought mine, and the one that I got a good deal on, it was cheaper than the other ones, was for the life of me,
Alpha.
I think they're out of Utah. Again, called the guy and called the company and talked to him and told him what I was looking at, and seemed like a good company to deal with. So I bought it. Now, I have seen, since I bought that one, other companies come out with it. Mine looks like an old style Jeep. It's got on the side of the border of the windshield, it's a bigger frame or border, and I don't really notice it obstructs my view at all. That's what everybody complains about, but it doesn't seem to bother me. I mean, your eyes looking everywhere anyway, but now you see the windshield's out. Yamaha makes one that you can barely see an edge around it's almost the whole thing is glass, and they say you get better view out of it. I really don't have any complaints with the one I got, so.
And then, so Don was telling us too that Fab FPF is where he got his, and it does have the smaller border around it. We were able to take a look at that while we were in Ontario this year, riding with Don's ATV Adventures and the Sideshow guys. Really great time hanging out with those guys. A lot of technical riding. They're great guys to ride with. But yeah, he got his windshield through Fab. I think it was Fab FPF is what it's called.
Yeah.
They're out of Canada.
What's funny is the guy doesn't speak English.
Yeah, he's French Canadian, I believe.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the cost sounded like it was about the same, but then you have to figure in the shipping to out of country, and especially now with tariffs and all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
So, it might not be as cheap to do it through, out of Fab FPF, but Don swears by them.
Yeah. Yeah, so windshield's important. Now, I will say that there's times that I kind of wish I didn't have a windshield on. It's hot out. I don't mind, because no matter what you have on your front of your machine, when you're in a real dusty trail, you're going to get dust in your machine, period. That's just the way it is. It blocks some of it. Same thing with mud. You can do all you want, but if you get in deep mud, you're going to get mud or water in your machine.
I almost think that in the dust factor, the windshield actually makes it worse.
Yeah.
That it swirls in there and
Yep.
settles.
Yep. So that's the other reason I bought the Alpha windshield was it has 4 Yamaha clamps on it, and you can take it, one person can take it off in about 30 seconds. So I like that idea. So now I've only taken it off a couple times, but never ridden without it yet. But that's something that I often thought about doing. Just put a pair of goggles or glasses on and go without a windshield. But we'll see. We'll see what. But for where we ride, because it's our Ohio, and where we go usually, sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's rainy. Windshield's nice to have sometimes. So. But as far as I think other things that I wanted to point out, I put a rear bumper on mine from Super ATV. It actually came in handy, saved my plastics. When I rolled my machine in Canada, it actually was really weird. You can check out that video. Not only our video, but the best video comes from the Sideshow guys. One of those guys was up on top of this hill that we were climbing, filming, and another guy was down below, Derek and Eric. Derek was down below and Eric was up top with Greg, and so their angle is a little bit better, but I did something I don't normally do. I tell these guys all the time that I'm one of those calculating, like to crawl things, go slow, and that way if you get in trouble, it's not so devastating. But I'm not a big jam the throttle all the time on things. And in this case, everybody else had gone up. Wayne had to be winched up. He got in a situation, and I actually saw his machine kind of at an angle where I ended up going.
Right. I was doing the same thing with you, except I pulled off and stopped.
Yeah.
And Eric was standing right there. Eric and Derek were both like, stop.
Yeah.
So, I might have tried to hammer through it too if it wouldn't have been for them. But basically, I did the same exact thing Rob did, except I pulled off the throttle and had to be winched up. So then Rob.
So I hammered the throttle, which I don't normally do. It started to go sideways, and I cut the wheel, and I thought I could save it, so I stayed on the throttle, and the tire caught on a lip on the rocks, like a little crevice in the rocks that we were on. You can see it on the video, and by then it was too late. But the nice thing about having a bumper is the machine rolled on the driver's side, and it caught the back corner of the bumper, and it ended up flipping the machine back the other direction. So I never really rolled on the roof. I hit the side of the machine, the cage, and then it threw me back onto my tires, which, in hindsight, looking at the circumstances I was in, I probably would have kept rolling down the hill had it not been for that bumper. So, hey, luck of the draw, I guess, or whatever. But, the only real damage I got, of course, I got some scratches on the side of the machine, scratched up the light bar mount that I have, and tweaked the front A-arm on that side when the tire caught in the crevice, and that was a few bucks to fix, but
I think the worst damage though was to your GoPro clip.
yeah, broke the GoPro clip, but the camera was still running. You can see that in our video. Didn't know where it was. It was laying on the ground. Picked it up and it was still videotaping. But the funny part of that whole clip is when you look at it, Greg was down below the hill and he was afraid I was going to roll on top of him. Took off running and tripped and fell, and he got hurt worse just trying to run away from the machine than I did. The thing is, this part of my arm came out of the cab a little bit, but the shoulder bolster that everybody complains about on Yamaha, they cut them off on. You go on YouTube, everybody's cutting them off. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's not uncomfortable to me, and it keeps me in the machine.
And it's saved us a few times.
Yeah.
Me and Greg rolled that first trip in New Hampshire, and then him and Kelly rolled in Pennsylvania at Mines and Metals, and that was a pretty devastating accident as far as, that could have went real bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that really got hurt was the machine.
Yeah.
And that's why we carry insurance. But shoulder bolsters held them both in. They seat belts held on. when it was all said and done, they were on their side. Greg is on the passenger side because that's where the passenger princess rides. And so he was above Kelly, so had everything not held in place, he probably would have crushed her. But you know, she was held right in, no scratches to her shoulder, nothing, because of that shoulder bolster. So I know I will never remove something like that, and I will probably be a little leery of buying a machine that does not have a shoulder bolster because I've seen the benefits of it.
Yeah.
I've been part of the benefits of it because when we rolled in New Hampshire, I was on my side. So
yeah. So that's there's a lot of other things we've done to our machines. Racks are another one. We found a company that
was making
racks. This was not his business. He's a fabricator, but we got a couple of reviews on that. You can check those out. Unfortunately, he doesn't make them anymore. It wasn't. It was time consuming for him cutting into his regular business, and it didn't make the money that he thought it would. Now, I will say that I finally found one other company that makes one. The Yamaha one's nice. The problem with it is it's short, and if you I got a cargo box on mine on the back part, and then the rack over top of the front part. And I like putting gear in front of the cargo box. It keeps it in the bed of the machine. But with that, the Yamaha factory one, couldn't do that. It wasn't high enough to get anything underneath, or barely high enough. But that's for the overlanding thing. It's nice. Like Wayne keeps his on his machine all the time. Mine, I haven't. The new one that I got, I haven't put on yet, other than to see how it fits on there. And I took it off. It's in my garage. It'll go with me this year when we go to Idaho. But yeah, it's. We noticed that when we went to New Hampshire was the first place we went to overlanding type riding. We chose to stay in a couple different spots and go from there, day trips all day long. And then we did the Upper Peninsula, which was our first real park the truck somewhere and just drive. And eventually after, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, you come back to the trucks. But it was good preparation for when we did Newfoundland, because we had to carry everything with us, and you learn from that. And the other guys carry cargo boxes, watertight Husky boxes, which work fine. We're able to do that and have more space for the rack. And the other thing too is, for me, on those big trips, I've always taken my two boys, and one of them rides the Yamaha Grizzly that we have, and then the other one is in with me. And so I was actually carrying stuff for two people.
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5. So Tino traveled pretty light. He likes the hammock way. He sleeps in a hammock all the time. When we can't find trees, he stretches it between two machines. So works out good for him. I'm too big for a hammock. But yeah, so it's just we kind of set things up based on what we do, how we do the things we do, and the ability to carry. And in Wayne's case, it's changed now because Lincoln's got his own machine, and Kathy's got her own machine. But when we would overland or take big trips like that, again, he was carrying for more than just himself. So whereas usually John and Greg are on their own, and putting the boxes in the back seemed to be enough for them. So, but I think what else was we were gonna. I think like I said, there's a lot of different things we've done. Little things, light bars, things like GMRS, right? Radios, so we can communicate on the trails.
Which has come in very handy.
Yeah. We all seem to, it was Greg's brother that found a deal on rugged radios. This is the kind we bought. Found a deal on them somewhere, and we all bought the same model. And then we bought a couple of handsets for the guys that ride quads, and then the other guys that we ride with from time to time ended up with similar or the same radios. So it works out pretty good. No matter where we go, we can all communicate together. And
yeah, they're probably not as needed at the the motorsports parks that we go to, because you're all relatively close. You can find each other relatively quickly. But overlanding for sure, it's
Yeah.
kind of saved our butts a couple times.
Yeah, you get dusty trails and somebody falls behind because of the dust, and then somebody makes a turn, and just giving a heads up on the radio and keeping contact with everybody. Instead of the old way of doing it, making sure the guy behind you was still with you, and everybody did that. Sometimes it's hard to do that and we've seen some pretty dusty trails. So,
Yeah, Upper Peninsula.
but that's an inexpensive thing to put on your rig, and it's convenient, and it's also one of those things that when you need it, it's sure glad we had it. But side mirrors and things we do on the inside, you can find that stuff anywhere pretty much. But the big things, like I said, we kind of learned on a lot of the stuff because we couldn't find content on it for whatever reason. Either people that, I'm sure that Yamaha sells enough machines, but you just don't see enough channels out there that cover what they do to their machines or things they add.
I think Don was one of the first ones you found that
Yeah.
actually did stuff for the RMAX, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's been interesting, but going forward, we're going to try to. We're in the end of March now, so we're chomping at the bit to get out, and we got some things planned coming up, like Easter weekend. I think we're going to do something. Kind of just weather. If the weather, the place is close to us, Mines and Meadows in PA or Bundy Hill. Mines and Meadows open year round, but this year we chose not to get a membership because we really didn't go there enough last year to benefit the membership. So we took a year off from that, but I'm sure we'll go there. They're adding bathhouses and some more land and improving the campground a little bit. So that'll be nice. We'll probably spend a weekend there. We'd like to go to Tecumseh Trails. That's a little bit more difficult. I wouldn't say difficult, but it's not as well taken care of because it's a part-time operation. They're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whereas Mines and Meadows are 7 days a week, and I think the only time they close is hunting season.
Hunting
yeah.
season. They're closed for 2 weeks for hunting season.
Yep.
That's it.
And there's a few other places I would love to get back to Canada. That's a trip that we could take in a long weekend.
Right.
You leave on a Thursday and ride Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come home on a Monday, and get
some
plenty
great
of
people
yeah.
riding too. Don and the side show guys and
They're kind of like us.
yes.
Their group. They got a bunch of other core group that rides with them, and then there's some other people that come in from time to time, and they cut on each other bad all the time, but they're all friends. Works out good. Kind of what we do. So then the big trip for the year for us is Idaho. We're in the final stages of that. Me and Wayne are actually going to fly to Missoula, Montana, and the guys are going to pick us up. As you've probably heard if you've watched our other videos, us two still work for a living. The other two are retired. John is a nomad. He chose to, him and his wife, kids are all grown, out on their own. Him and his wife chose to, they've always been RV people, camping people, chose to sell all their possessions and their house, and they got I think it's a 38-foot travel trailer, and he's got a big diesel truck, and they just kind of nomad in that, live out of that, and they go where they want to. In the winter, they've been wintering in Florida. This year, they went to Corpus Christi, Texas, and if you tuned into our last, I think it was our last video, they were at touring a battleship or an aircraft carrier or something.
Aircraft carrier.
Yeah, Lexington, I think it was.
Yep.
But they're going to drive out because they got more time on their hands, and me and Wayne are trying to save vacation so we can do more riding trips. And it's about a 3-day. You can probably do it in less, but pulling trailers and it's about a 30-hour drive to get to where we're going to. So they're going to drive out, pull the machines, and we're going to fly in and fly out after the trip's over. But it's about I was looking at it again today, a little over 800 miles, I think, total, from Darby, Montana, into Idaho, and then basically around the Frank Church Wilderness of No Return.
Yeah.
Bunch of different trails, bunch of different cities. Tune into that. That'll be out hopefully. We do that in September of this year. Hopefully by the end of the year, those videos will be out. It's sometimes it's tough to get videos because we're spread apart, and we're just hitting our rhythm on trying to. Our goal is to have a video out once a week. We've been pretty good, but when you get to this time of the year, we really don't have any content left. Everything that everything we've done is a learning process. At first, I think you had a camera, I had a camera, and Greg had a camera.
Right.
And batteries and knowing how to keep things charged and what to videotape. We've experimented with a bunch of different things, and I think we hit our groove here recently. And then the editing part of it. Me and Wayne don't seem to have too many problems with editing. At least I don't.
Yeah, that's.
You talk to Greg, and he must be so meticulous that it takes him, or his attention span. Sorry, Greg, but a video that we can edit in a few hours, it takes him a few weeks. You're owed that, Greg, by the way. But the goal is to do enough and store up enough content, and we're going to try to do more of stuff that's not just writing. Like I said. There might be people, we're trying to hit a group like us that, we're not going to talk to young kids and tell them what to do. They do whatever.
Right.
It's groups, guys like us, 40, 50, 60, that still want to get out and see things and do things and
be a little crazy, but not over the edge crazy.
Yeah. And there's just not enough people that do that. I mean, there's, like I said, we're doing Idaho, but I got trips backed up that we could handle for years. We want to go to Utah. We want to go to Arizona. I'd love to go back to Newfoundland. I would love to go back to New Hampshire. Upper Peninsula was a really nice trip. There's more to see up there that we didn't do. The Black Hills. We go to Hatfield every year, but that's.
Was that Royal Blue and?
Ride Royal Blue. There's so many places we can go to that. And the overlanding standpoint, so many places we want to, I've never been to the Grand Canyon. I've been over the Grand Canyon, by the Grand Canyon, but never been to the Grand Canyon. Washington State's got some trails that I wouldn't mind trying. Yeah. So, Texas, all kinds of places. So, we're going to try to do that and keep bringing content once a week. And when we have enough content, maybe we'll do a couple a week. But the stuff like this is important to us to maybe educate somebody and maybe get some comments from people. And maybe there's somebody like us sitting out there, just bought a machine and wants to know what to do, where to go, what to see. And if you like our channel, stick with us. If you don't, no big deal. We're not trying to do this to be YouTube sensations or something or make a living out of this. That's not what we're doing. This is kind of a hobby for us. We get to pal around together, the four of us, and
we've met some good people.
Yeah.
We met Keith. We met Don, the sideshow guys.
I got my two brothers involved in side by sides. Got my boys wanted to do it. His boys got a machine now, Lincoln, and Kathy went on and got her own machine. So. And there's a few other people that ride with us, and
she is talking about wanting to trade that in and trade mine in and get that 4-seater RMAX. So which surprised me that came out of her. She's over around the corner, by the way. She's just trying to be quiet.
But if you need any information or got questions or whatever, you can find us on Facebook. We try to keep up on that as much as possible, but we're not the social media people. We do it just to stay relevant, I think, or let people know.
Leave us a comment. We'll try to get back to you. Like I said, we're not. This is not by far, especially for Rob and I. We have our other jobs.
Day jobs, yeah.
Right, that are 40 plus hours a week. So if we don't get back to you right away, please don't get upset about it. But we do like to see those comments. We do like to comment back. So.
Yeah, if you have ideas of what, something that you've done that we have not done or we have not seen, or areas where you ride, shoot us a comment. So look forward to upcoming. Like I said, we're going to do something Easter weekend. We're going to try to get Greg on a video to talk about his debuting his new / old machine. He can explain that in the video, but he unfortunately had a crash back in the fall.
Yeah, it was before I went to Ontario, so it was August.
Late summer, I think. Had a crash and hasn't been able to ride his machine until now. He just got it back, so.
Rob and I actually picked it up 2 weeks ago.
We'll do that, and we'll do a video on that, all that he went through with getting back to that insurance thing and the things that can happen with your machine
and the new name of his machine.
Yeah, so we'll cover that, and then you'll probably see a few more videos on this type of format. We like to get outside of just filming, like I said, riding stuff, and sit down and talk. Now that we got, come down to, what are we going to call this place anyway?
So I've decided it's going to be named the Bar Down Bar, which is a hockey term.
Okay.
So the Canadian people will like that. I got a little logo that I'm going to paint on the wall here shortly. It's the Bar Down. So.
Thanks for watching.
Yep, thanks.
See you soon.
Bye.